Okay, here we go. Here's what I have on board for you. Okay, we're solving these quadratics. That's actually kind of not true. They're really solving polynomials because quadratic is a, what is a quadratic? Highest power of your variables 2. So let's look at some examples here and see if we can put some things together. Okay, here's an example for you. You have to solve, they're going to give you, they're going to say solve for x. That's your instructions. You have x squared minus x minus 20 equals what? 0. Okay? Now here's the thing. We're going to talk about what's called what is it called? The zero what? Product rule. You know what that means, to have a zero product? That means, first of all, you have a product. You multiply two things together, and your answer is what? 0. Now, that's a very special situation. If you have this situation, then do you guys know what that means? That means either your triangle is what? 0, or it means the what? Square is 0. Or it could be both or 0. But the point I'm making is, if you ever multiply two numbers together and your answer is 0, what does that mean about your numbers? Well, I'll say it again. If you multiply two numbers together, number, multiply, and the answer is 0, what does it mean about those numbers? Yeah, you can say one of them is 0, or how about even better? At least one could be 0. So you say, what do you mean at least one? Well, that means one is 0. You don't know which one. Or maybe both are 0. Okay, is 0 times 0, 0? Is 0 times a non-zero number 0? Yeah. Is a non-zero number times a 0 number 0? Sure is. Okay, so in other words, that's why I put the triangle as 0, or your what? Square was 0. And we say that's inclusive, the or is inclusive, because it could be both or 0. So let's see an example here. What do you guys notice? Do you have a product here? What do you guys have? What is this? Is that a difference? What do you need? Don't we need a product? So we need a what? A product. How do you guys get a product when you have a difference? What do you think? What do you use? How do you get a product when you have a difference? You have to do what? Huh? Is this a product? Have you ever seen parentheses times parentheses? Is that a product? What am I thinking of? You have to what? Factor. You're going to have to factor this, ladies and gentlemen. That's the whole idea. So, assuming you can factor, if you can actually solve this called quadratic, because the highest power is 2. We're going to solve this quadratic. So how do you factor x squared minus x minus 20? What recipe do you use? Is that a chicken soup situation? So pull out your chicken soup recipe, and you have what? X, what is that? Minus 4. Oh, is it minus 4? It's plus 4 and minus 5. So you're going to have to factor. After you factor, take a look. Do you have a zero product rule situation? Take a closer look. Do you have a zero product rule situation? What do you guys see? Do you see a triangle here? Do you see a what? Square here, or rectangle? I don't know. Do you see it? Triangle times square is 0. What does the zero product rule say? That means what? Your triangle, which is x plus 4, is 0. Or it means the square, which is x minus 5, is what? 0. Okay, you okay with that? Now, what kind of equations you guys see here? Anybody know what these are called? You have what's called linear equations. How do you guys solve linear equations? How do you guys solve both of these linear equations? What do? You translate and you what? Translate. You remember that? So you're now going to have an x what? X is negative 4. And you're going to have an x is what? Positive 5. Okay? So this is how you solve your what? Quadratic equation. You solve by factoring. And by using that zero product rule. So this is the essence of what you have to do today. So notice, is factoring a big deal, you think, then? Yeah, you're not going to be able to solve it without factoring. Okay, you okay with this? Your first example, was that easy or hard? How about this example? What if they said x squared minus 4 equals 0? X squared minus 4 is 0. What do you guys think about this? Can you factor this? Because that's the difference. We have to write it as a product, right? If we're going to use the zero product rule, we better have a product. That's 0. So how do I get a product here? Right? We need a product to use this. What's the word I'm looking for? We have to what? You factor. Do you guys recognize how you factor that? That's the difference of what? Perfect squares? Okay. X, what? 2 plus minus. X plus 2 is 0, or x minus 2 is 0. Okay? Solve for x. See what you get. You get what? X is negative 2, or x is what? Positive 2. And by the way, if you look in back of the book, these are solutions, these are answers. You're going to see negative 4 comma 5. You're going to see set notation. You're going to see set notation here, negative 2 comma what? Positive 2. Okay? You guys okay with this? Anybody have any questions on these two? That's what you're doing. You're factoring and using the zero product rule. Yeah.
What's that word that's in the middle?
Which one, here?
No, in the bottom.
Inclusive?
Oh, inclusive.
Yeah, inclusive.
Yeah, that means your or is inclusive. Do you guys know the difference between an inclusive or and an exclusive or? You're either on time or you are late. Can you be both? No, that's an exclusive or. You can pass the class, or I'll say you'll get an A in the class if you what? Give me $1 billion or get an A in every exam. Could you do both?
Yes.
Yes, you could give me the $1 billion and get an A in every exam. So that means that or is an inclusive or. The same kind of word is used in English, or, which makes it a little difficult. Other languages, I believe, have different words for that scenario. Mm-hmm. They have an exclusive or and an inclusive or. Anybody know any languages that have that different ors? No? What language?
I think Spanish.
Is there two different ors in Spanish?
Yeah.
What are they?
parents? I'm trying to remember.
You sure? Anybody know? What's the or word in Spanish?
E.
What is it?
Just Y. E.
Just Y?
Yeah. Yes.
Is that inclusive or exclusive?
Could be either.
I don't know. I wish I knew. Where's the Spanish experts?
Like senior judge y matemática. I don't know.
Mr. Judge or math?
I don't know. Mr. Judge and math. I don't know.
Then that would be an inclusive or, because it could be and both.
But if you could piece it together with something else.
So maybe there isn't. Maybe Spanish is not an example where there's two different ors. I don't know. Ask your Spanish instructors. Or ask anybody's parents speak Spanish? Ask your parents. See what they tell you. Huh? They won't know. They may know. All right, here we go. You ready for some more? Here we go. Some more examples. Let's give you a nice hard one. What do you guys think? Okay, you ready for this? We're going to give you x plus 3 times x minus 7 is negative 9. What do you guys think? What do you guys think about this one?
You just put them in the already x plus 3 equals 9, x minus 7 equals negative 9. You just put it like that.
Well, be careful. What do you have to have? If you're going to use the zero product rule, what do you guys have to have? A product. Do you have a product? Oh yeah, we sure do. It's right here. There's a product. What else do you have to have?
0.
Is that 0?
No.
Darn it.
You're going to have to translate the 9.
So what do you mean? What do you have to do with that?
You're going to translate the 9 and then you're going to...
Oh, okay. Let's translate the 9. All right, let's see what we get. Then you will have x plus 3, x minus 7. This is going to be plus what? Plus 9 equals what? 0. Okay, there you go. You got a 0 now. Do you have a product? Well, we have a product and a what? Sum. In other words, you don't strictly have a product here like you do on top with this being 0. So then what do you do in that situation? What do you guys think? What do you have to do? You got to use some FOIL. Okay, you got to do some simplification. You say, what do you mean? Yeah, use FOIL and add the 9 to the constant term. So let's try this out. Let's see. By FOIL, you get first term is x squared. Outer term is minus 7x. Inner term is plus 3x. Your last term is minus 21. You're going to add it to your 9 here and get 0. So we FOILed this to get these terms. I said simplify, which is combine your like terms. So negative 7x plus 3x, is that minus 4x? Negative 21 plus 9 is that minus 12? You guys are with me on that? I think that's minus 12, right? So what do you notice now? Exactly. You have differences. You need a product. You get a product only by factoring. And what recipe is this? It's a chicken soup recipe. So this is why you guys have worked on factoring all last week and this week, so that you can solve these higher order polynomials, or we should say these are quadratics specifically, highest powers 2. So use your chicken soup. What are your values? 6 and what? 2, is that minus 6 plus 2? I think so. Okay, here we go. What does this mean by the zero product rule? It means x minus 6 is 0, right? Or it means x plus 2 is what? 0. How do you solve these linear equations? By translating. So we get x will be what? Positive 6, and then we get x to be what? Negative 2. Okay, so this is your process today. You're going to use that zero product rule, but the only way you can get a product is by factoring. And this technique that you guys see is a very, very powerful technique. Okay, it's an important technique. It's a fundamental technique. That's why they have it in beginning algebra. Let's look at some more examples. X squared minus x is 42. Okay, like I started to say, you have it in beginning algebra. Do you know that they expect in intermediate algebra, they will expect you guys to know how to do this in your what? Sleep. They're going to say, here's a quadratic, you have to solve this. So they expect you to be able to do that. Okay, so here we go. Can I use my zero product rule here?
No.
Why not?
It's not zero.
Okay, how do you get 0 over here then? Okay. So you get now what? X squared minus x minus 42, and that equals what? 0. Is that a product? Nope. What do you have to do to get a product? Factor. What's the recipe? Chicken soup? Okay. Use your chicken soup recipe. Let's see what you got. What do you guys know? What is this going to be? 7 and 6. Negative 7 plus 6. Okay, good. X minus 7 is 0. X plus 6 is 0. What are you going to do now? Translate your what? 7. Translate your 6. X will be what? 7. And x is what now? Negative 6. Double check if that's... I'm going to check if it's clear. Okay, anybody have any questions on this one here? Nope, you okay? All right, let's do some more. How would you handle this? 25x squared minus 81 is 0. Okay? Anybody notice? Look at this. Huh? It has a 0. Good. What else? Huh? I don't know. What do you guys think? What does that look like to you? There's two terms here, right? Oh, you notice? What did you guys notice about 25x squared? It's a perfect square. What do you notice about 81? It's a perfect square. Did you have the math gene? No, you generated those terms. So you recognize it because you generated that. Is that a difference? How do you know? You use your eyesight. You see subtraction.
Depending on the, if you say the equation like that, you can use whatever formula, depending on the situation.
Be careful. I understand what you're saying. You can't use whatever formula. You have to use the difference of perfect square formula. This, you have to use the chicken soup recipe. So, yes, what's going to happen is you're going to see the various chicken soup, beef stew.
What's in front of you, right?
Yeah, it depends on what you're looking at. That's true. So here, this is a difference of perfect squares. Now, remember how we did that. We've been working on those. This is going to be a 5x. Here's a 5x. 9, here is 9, and we add and what? Subtract. Now I get to use my zero product rule, meaning I get 5x plus 9 is 0, or 5x minus 9 is 0, okay? Solve your linear equations. You get two linear equations. Didn't we say you get these linear equations here? So notice that. This is algebra. You know how to solve linear equations. You're going to translate, remember? This is why I give that test 5 the way I do. I'll have you review. So we get 5x is negative 9. We get 5x is positive 9. Divide both sides by what? 5. I get x is minus 9/5. And I get x is going to be what? Plus 9/5. Here's your two answers. Is that easy? Well, that's the idea. It's supposed to be, you're supposed to focus on your factoring techniques. Hopefully you worked on your homework and you got your factoring under your belt. You're okay. That's the idea. And now we show you how to use it in higher order equations, meaning polynomials or quadratics in particular, using the zero product rule. That's the idea. And this is a very fundamental idea. It's a very important idea. Because what you're going to have later, believe it or not, what if they gave you x cubed minus 8 is 0? What if they gave you this? You're going to see what I mean by this. You're solving this for x. You're going to have the phrase solve for x or solve. They're going to give you an equation. So what that should say to you is, I have to solve this because they told me to, right? Don't make every factor problem a solve problem. If it just says factor, you factor. If it says solve, you what? Solve. Does that kind of sound okay? All right. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
What is it? Now, this is not a quadratic, ladies and gentlemen. So, already the title of the worksheet is kind of bad. They should have just said solve not quadratics, but solve specially chosen polynomials. Because these are really all specially chosen so that you can solve. In a sense, let's take a look at see what I mean. What was your difference of perfect cube formula? X, and this was what? X squared. 2, and this was 2 squared. And then, what's the middle term? 2x. Good. What were the signs? Subtraction, opposite, always plus. You okay with that? Now, do you guys see a triangle and a square here? Should I put the triangle and square for you? I get one term times, it's no longer a square, it's a rectangle. I'm going to use my zero product rule. What does it mean if I multiply two things together and my answer is 0? That means one of them is what? 0. We got x minus 2 is 0. Or we got x squared plus 2x plus, what's 2 squared? 4 is 0. Okay, good. I'm going to solve this. Translate my what? My 2. What do you get for x? X is 2. Now, I'm going to have to solve for x here. Oh, what do I notice? Is it a trinomial, 3 terms? Let's see. In other words, anybody remember, anybody been doing the homework and we're supposed to solve this by what? Factoring, right? Because it's a quadratic, highest power is 2. Anybody been, it's not beef stew, it's chicken soup. But what do you guys notice about this one? Maybe you've been paying a little attention to what I've been saying at this point. Anybody look over those notes and pay attention? What have I been saying for this difference of perfect cubes and sum of perfect cube formulas? Yes, good. This is actually always what? Prime. What does that mean? Not factorable. Good. Now, if you didn't know that, you try to use chicken soup, you go, oh, multiply together two numbers whose product is 4, whose sum is 2, you'll never find a pair. It won't. You're right. This is always what? Prime. So, here's what this means. If you're in Math 115, your answer is just a single value what? 2. If you're in Math 125, which is not this course, if you take an intermediate algebra course, well, they're going to show you how to solve this thing when it's not factorable. Okay, so you have to pay more fees and take more courses to get that knowledge. Okay? So that's good and bad news. It's bad news if you said, look, I want to solve it. I like solving. Let me solve this. That's bad news for you. Well, how can you solve it? You got to use the quadratic formula. What's the quadratic formula? X is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. It's not that bad. Is it in your notes? Put it in your notes. Did you guys hear what I said?
Can you repeat that one?
Can I repeat it?
Yeah.
X is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Oh, slower? X is negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac, everything over 2a. Okay, you got that down? Well, next semester you're going to what? That's what you're going to study to solve this. So if I were you guys, I'd be happy right now and say, wow, this isn't next semester. This is just factoring using the zero product rule. You guys should celebrate because next semester they're going to really say solve these things. And this time you got to solve things that are not factorable. That gives rise to different number systems. Well, I should say different sort of. You got to talk about the complex numbers and you got to talk about irrational numbers, and that's a whole other thing. Okay? So it's not a big deal. You can do this so long as you do what kind of stuff? Homework, study. When do you want to study?
Yeah.
Night before test?
No.
Anybody, what happens to the bride that goes on a diet the night before her wedding? Is she going to fit in the dress? Is she going to fit in her dress? If you're a bride, when do you want to diet? Now. When's the wedding? When's the wedding? It's in July? Did you get your dress yet?
No.
Are you going to get a dress?
No, I'm wearing a suit.
Well, all I'm saying is you guys know, I shouldn't tell you this. It's horrible. I couldn't believe it myself. My daughter started laughing at me the other day. I'm like, why? Because I always get mad. What does she always have to watch? What's that girl's show? After school, always. Say yes to the dress.
Heck yes. Best show.
Say yes to. She spends hours watching Say Yes to the Dress. And I'm always, oh my God, I hate this show. And I have to go leave. I have to go to another room because I hate Say Yes to the Dress. So she watches it so much.
She knows the styles.
And I was watching this thing and I was like, oh, this is pretty interesting because, the mom and the daughter are fighting. I'm like, oh, I got to see what happens in this fight.
And they take their whole family. And
Everybody, they're all fighting. They can't decide. Should we spend $6,000 on a dress? $8,000 on a dress you're going to wear one day?
8,000.
You guys know what I'm saying? $6,000, $8,000 on a wedding dress?
There was one wedding dress. It was $25,000.
Yes.
It was really nice.
Is it really nice? I can't tell the difference between a $25,000 and a $20,000 sometimes. I don't know. I think I could make a dress. You pay me $25,000, I'll make the same dress. Okay? I'll knit the dress for $25,000. But so why am I telling you this story? What happened? Oh yeah. So she changes the channel and leaves, and I go, oh, I gotta watch this because I gotta see what happens. So I change it back.
Those shows are fake though. They all act.
She comes in the room and she sees me watching it. She goes, I knew you liked this show. She started laughing at me because I was watching Say Yes to the Dress.
Best when the women have an unlimited budget.
They have an unlimited budget? Oh, man. Unlimited wedding budget.
Yeah, it's a woman. She got this nasty, big old like Barbie.
Yeah, I know.
Dress, and I was like, that's ugly.
I know. There's a lot of ladies buying ugly dresses out there. It's pretty bad. There's that other show, too, about the weddings on TLC. You guys know? You ever watch that? Yeah, you ever see that? That's funny stuff. It's horrible.
They're just rude.
They're horrible. Yeah, they are. It's pretty bad. Anyway, What does that mean if you factor completely? What do you always do first?
GCF.
Factor out your greatest common factor. So the greatest common factor of 24x squared and 12x is what? 12x. Greatest common factor, here's your what? Quotient. What is the quotient? What is it? Is it 2x plus 1? You guys anybody second that? Look how nice that is. So I got a triangle here, if I want to look at it that way, and I got a rectangle here. I get to use the zero product rule. So you get 12x is 0, and you get 2x plus 1 is 0. Okay, could you guys solve this here?
Yeah.
Right? Divide both sides by what? By 12. X is 0. Oh, can you guys solve 2x plus 1 is 0? Translate the 1. I get 2x is negative 1. Divide both sides by 2. And I get x is what? Negative 1/2. Okay, you guys ready for another one? Here we go. Try this. What about 8x squared? Minus 71x. Wow. Minus 9 is 0. Let's try to, remember we have to, this is a sum and difference. I have to write it as a product. In other words, I have to factor. And yes, we have to factor completely always. So if I ever write the word factor, it means factor completely. What's the greatest common factor? Anybody know what that greatest common factor is? 1? Is it 1? Yeah, so I guess what choice do we have? How do you factor this? What recipe? This is a beef stew scenario. Got to bring out the beef stew recipe. Okay. You got to do it. So beef stew, let's see. What do you get by beef stew? If I remember my steps, let's see. What two numbers multiply together? AC is going to be what? Negative 72. B is going to be negative 71. What are the two numbers? Negative 72 and positive 1. Anybody second that?
Yes.
I think you're right. Okay. So let me see. I got 8x squared. Let's write it bigger. (8x squared minus 2x plus 1x minus 9 equals 0. Okay. What comes next now? Factored by grouping. Take out the greatest common factor. 8x. Quotient is x minus 9. Is that right? Plus 1. Quotient is x minus 9. That is 0. We're factored by grouping. And then notice x minus 9. And then what? 8x plus 1. That equals 0. Okay, you okay with this so far? Everybody okay with this recipe? Now I'm going to go up here. Because I'm running out of space, I want to use some space here. We had to factor by beef stew. Greatest common factor was 1. So we have no choice. We've got to use beef stew. That's okay, we know beef stew. We factored x minus 9, 8x plus 1. So let me write it up here now. You got x minus 9 times 8x plus 1. Don't forget that's 0. This is an equation that they gave us to solve. Use the zero product rule. Okay? X minus 9 was 0. Yeah, x plus 1 is 0. Translate. You're solving for x. What does that mean about x? X is 9. Translate. What do you get? 8x is negative 1. How do we solve for x? Divide by 8. What does x equal? Negative 1/8. You are what? Done. That's a beef stew problem. Okay? How about this one? Let's try this out. 5x squared minus 30x plus what? 40 is 0. Okay, remember, this is a sum of difference. We have to write it as a product. The only way you can do that is by what? Is by factoring. You got to factor. Okay, so let's see. How do we do this? Factor really means factor what? Completely. So what do we take out? What's the greatest common factor? 5. Okay. So you're going to take out your 5. What's the quotient? X squared minus 6x plus what? 8 is 0. Okay. Now some of you guys don't like that. Then we have 5 times, oh, what recipe? Remember, this is the greatest common factor. Here's my quotient. This is a chicken soup scenario. Chicken soup. X and X. So, what two numbers multiplied together is 8? When added is negative 6. Is it 4 and 2? Negative 4 and negative 2. We're using chicken soup. So, let's stop and think about what this means for a second. Do you guys know what this means? This means that x minus 4 times x minus 2 has to make this expression 0. You say, how do you know? Well, it's not the 5. Because 5 times any number, unless the number is 0, is not 0, right? So what's making this expression equal to 0, because you're now multiplying not one term, but what? I'm sorry, 2 terms. You're multiplying 3 terms. This number is not 0. It's not making the product 0. So the very next step, we sometimes say, oh, this implies that x minus 4 times x minus 2 has to be 0. And it does. Because this does not make it 0. But that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. What you're going to have to do now is this. Divide both sides by what? By 5. And what do you guys know? I can divide any equation by the same number. I have to do it to both sides. But make sure that the number is not 0 that I'm dividing by, because you can't divide by 0. So I can divide both sides of an equation by a non-zero number. Point being, my 5's what? Cancel. What's 0 divided by 5? 0. So you get this anyway. And then use your 0 product rule. And you have what? X minus 4 is 0. You have x minus 2 is 0. Translate your 4. Translate your 2. I get x is 4. Now I get x is what? 2. These are your 2 answers. These are your 2 solutions.
Can you write them in notation?
You know, you can, if formally you look in back of the book, and you'll have this. 4, comma, 2. This is set notation. You look in back of the book, you'll have here 9, comma, negative 1/8.
How about in the text? Does it
Look, if you guys give me 9 and negative 1/8, I am happy. I'm one happy guy. If you forget to put it in set notation, I say, hey, that's okay. Would I rather you put it in set notation? Sure, that's really, how do we describe it? That's a classy thing to do. You know what I mean? That's pretty classy. You're like, man, you got some class. Because you put your answer how? In set notation, because it is, it's called a solution set. It's a set of solutions. What's a set again? It's a list. This is a list of answers, a list of solutions. Does the order matter in which you put this list? Does it matter who's on your Christmas list? Mom before Mr. Judge? Or Mr. Judge before Mom? You know what I mean? Doesn't matter as long as we're both on the list. Do you want your bananas versus your oranges? You put your bananas first or the oranges first? On your grocery list. The order doesn't matter because it's a list, right? So whenever you have a list or a set, solution set, if you guys really want to, impress people, don't talk about a list anymore. Call it a set. And then they don't know what you're talking about. But a set is really a list. Okay? So a set is a list. Doesn't matter the order in which you write your solutions or your answers. Either way, I'm happy if you get your answers, but if you put it in set notation, I'm like, wow. I'm gonna take you to meet the queen or something, because I can, because you're not gonna embarrass us, right? She's gonna go meet the queen, huh?
If got to 0, do you still write it?
What's that?
If one of them got to 0, do you still include that draft?
Yeah, you always write it. Let's kind of find one. I think there was one.
Yeah, we just did one, didn't we?
When there was a 0?
Yeah.
Yeah, but let me find.
Oh no, it was a prime. There was a prime and a 0.
How about this one? Let's find this one. What if you have 2x cubed is 8x? Right, first of all, you don't even have a product. Well, I guess you do have a product here, but this is not what? 0. So translate your 8x. Two x cubed minus what? 8x equals 0. Okay, you okay with that? All right, what comes next? What do you factor out? 2 and 8, x cubed and x. So yes, do you notice that this is not a perfect cube? X is a perfect cube too, isn't it? There's a difference. I don't have difference. 8's a perfect cube, x isn't. This is not difference of perfect cubes. They both have to be perfect cubes. These both have to be perfect cubes. So remember again, you factor and you're factoring completely, which means you take out the greatest common factor. And you're right, that'll be what? 2x times x squared minus 4 is 0. This is your greatest common factor. Here's your quotient. What recipe do I use for the quotient? Chicken soup? No. Difference of perfect squares. Good. How do you know? Well, you have a difference and you have two terms. They're both perfect squares. So that's how you know. So you have x, 2, what? Plus and minus. Okay, you okay with this? What happens now? What does this mean? It means 2x is 0. It means what? X plus 2 is 0. It means what? X minus 2 is 0. You got 3 linear equations to solve. And how do you solve each? Divide by 2. We get x is what? 0. Translate your 2. We get what? X is negative 2. Translate your 2. We get x is what? Positive 2. You're done. And yes, you could put your answers in set notation. I'll put it up here.
Can you have divided the 2x? Both sides?
Nope. You don't want to divide by 2x.
Because you're solving solving for x.
Because that gives you 1 equals 0. You got a problem. Yeah, you're solving for x. You got to divide by 2. Okay, you write it in solution set if you like. Should give an easy one or a hard one? Hard one? All right, I'm going to give you guys a couple here to do on your own because we got to have you guys do some of these on your own. Okay, we got to take the training wheels away from you. You guys ready to take those training wheels away? Yeah. Anybody here doesn't know how to ride a bike?
I do.
No, I say do not know. Who doesn't know how to ride a bike?
I learned that since I was 3.
Really?
I learned a bike yet.
How do you learn how to ride a bike?
Put your feet on the pedal, learn how to balance your stability, and it's
Just let you go.
Yeah, what happens when they let you go? You crash, maybe. All right, let's see. Watch you guys crash a little. Okay, you still crash? Let's remove the training wheels. We'll see if you crash. If you crash, we'll pick you up. Okay, you okay with this? All right, let's try this out. X squared plus 64 equals 16. Oh, wait, hold on. 16x. Okay, good. Try that one out. Four x squared is 7x plus 15. X squared, 2x minus 1 is 3x. Okay, we'll try this out. We'll give you guys a few minutes. You guys want to try this out? Okay, here we go. We got to have 0 here, right? So you have x squared minus 16x plus 64 equals 0. Factor by chicken soup. X, what else? X minus 8, what else? Minus 8. Is that true? Yes. Let me erase this for a second. Somebody remind me what it was, because I like that problem too. What do you guys get here? Right, 0 product rule. Don't you get x minus 8 is 0? You get x minus 8 is 0. Okay, you translate your 8. Doesn't look much better. X is 8. X is 8. So, if we had to write a solution set, since Christmas is coming, what do you guys notice? What are your answers? 8 and what? 8. So if you had to list this, who's on your Christmas list? Maybe just mom. Mom and mom. How many times are you going to list mom? Once. If you put it twice, you do really have to put your mom down on the Christmas list twice? What do you think? Once is enough. Have you got 2 moms? But they have to have different names. Or do they have the same name? Mom.
Mom 1 and mom 2.
Mom 1, well, that's still different. Mom 1 is different than Mom 2. Okay, 8 and 8. How about this? 4x squared minus 8x is what? 0. Remember, two terms, are they both perfect square? This is a perfect square. Perfect square. What is this? No, it's not. Okay. Greatest common factor. 4x. What's the quotient? X minus 2. Here we go. 4x is 0. X minus 2 is 0. Solve for x. Divide both sides by 4. X is 0. Translate your 2. What do you get for x? Positive 2. So if you had to list them, 0 and 2. 0, ladies and gentlemen, is a solution. Just because it's 0, don't ignore it. Some people don't like 0. Okay, put your 0 down. All right, here we go. The next one. 4x squared minus 7x minus 15. That is 0. Take out the greatest common factor. 4, 7, 15. What's your greatest common factor? 1. So this is a what situation? This is beef stew. Okay, what did you guys get when you factored this by beef stew? Well, what did you get? What did you get when you factored it? What did you get? Well, what did you get when you factored? 4x minus 5, and then what? 4x plus 5, and then? X minus 3. How can we double check? Use FOIL. 4x times x, 4x squared. 4x times negative 3, negative 12x plus 5. That's negative 7. Okay. Oh, it looks like you're okay. So you factored by the beef stew recipe. Hopefully you did your beef stew homework. 4x plus 5 is 0. X minus 3 is 0. Translate, we get x is 3. Translate, we get 4x is negative 5. Now divide by 4, so you get x is negative 5 what? Fourth. So if you had to list your solutions here, you got what? Negative 5 fourths, and you have positive what? 3. Now, that last one, what was it? What did you guys get? What was it? X what? X squared times? 2x minus 1, okay. Okay, did you guys have fun with this one? Oh, let's take a look. Let's see what happens. Remember, you're going to have to do a couple things. I'm going to have to translate, right? Because I need that to be 0. I'm going to use the 0 product rule. That's what this is all based on. So that's x squared times 2x minus 1. Now, translate that 3x, and now that equals 0. What do you guys use here? Distributive property. We get 2x what? Cubed minus x squared minus 3x equals what? 0. Good. Whew. Okay, we had to do some algebra to simplify our expression there. Really, our equation, expression, whatever you want to call it. Take a look. What recipe to use? I have no idea. Because that is no recipe. There's no recipe for x to the third, x squared, and x. Take out, remember, you're still factoring. You're factoring completely. Take out the what? You got to factor completely. Take out your greatest common factor. In this case, it's what? It's x. So you have 2x squared minus x minus 3 is 0. Here's my greatest common factor. Here's the quotient. And then what do I notice about this quotient? When I factor the quotient, is that beef stew or is that chicken soup? That's beef stew. How do you guys know? There's a 2. Here we go. Let's take this out. So you get x. Now, here's the deal. What did you guys get when you did your beef stew? Remember, two numbers multiplied together is -6. So the product here has to be what? -6, and your sum, the sum has to be -1. What is it? -6 +1. Anybody second that? Well, -6 times +1 is -6, but the sum is not -1. -3 +2. You say, what are you talking about? Yeah, I got to go through the recipe. Multiply -3 and 2, you get -6. -3 plus 2, -1. Here it is. So you're using our beef stew here, 2x squared, right? Minus 3x plus 2x. This is what I'm factoring. -3. Now, what's the next step in the recipe? Factor by grouping. Okay, take out the greatest common factor. 2x minus 3. I'm glad we factored by grouping. We did that homework. This is what you get. So you should have 2x minus 3, x plus 1 by the what? By the beef stew recipe. When you factor your quotient. We're factoring this. So I bring down my x. Guess what? Is this a zero product rule still? How many terms do you guys have now? You have a triangle. You have a rectangle or square. I'm going to say now you have a what? Diamond. You know what this means? If I multiply three numbers together and the answer is 0, what does that mean? One of them was what? 0. So this is an extension of the zero product rule. I don't have 2 terms, I have 3. So just to let you guys know how that works is the following. Write it this way. We have x is 0. You have what? 2x minus 3 is 0. What's the third one? X plus 1 is 0. We're looking at the generalization here of the zero product rule. It doesn't matter how many terms you multiply together. We could have 4 or 5 or 10. We could have 100. If it equals 0, one of them was 0. Okay, you okay with that? This I already saw for x. Translate. X is -1. 2x is 3. Divide by 2. X is 3/2. You have 3 solutions in your solution set, solution list. 0, 3/2, and negative what? 1. Okay? So, this is, ladies and gentlemen, how you solve really polynomial equations by using the zero product rule. Okay? So anyway, is this going to be on your test? Yes. You bet.